Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Corsair Vengeance RGB, because we must RGB all of the things, which obviously means that we're now RGBing the memory. Yes! Now it's DDR4 and they come in a range of sizes and speeds. So the one I've got here today is 4 times 8 GB, giving me 32 GB total. And it's 3000 megahertz, but they do them in all different speeds and all different sizes. One of the things that I will say though is when you're with DDR4 and stuff, try and get the memory speed that you can afford and the one that you're kind of happy with, and then overclocking beyond that point is always then a bonus. Because of the difference with binning nowadays, and depending on what batch ends up going in your memory. My memory kit, for example, could overclock amazing, and it won't be because it's speed binned, it's just because it's come from a specific batch. But then 2 months down the line, you might get one which just runs at your own speed. So it's actually really difficult for you know, a self-respecting or a reviewer that understands how this stuff gets done, made, to be able to give you advice on overclocking beyond that point, because it's basically, it always does come down to the silicon lottery. But anyway, so apologies, and this is what they look like. They're all very, very monochrome and understated, and the only giveaway when you look at them like this is the fact it has RGB here now. So I've moved all the other modules out of the way to stop the focus having a heart attack, but it just says RGB here now, whereas on the old ones, the LED models, they were just coloured to show you the colours that were on them. So that's your red stick and that's your white stick. But with the RGBs, you've now just got that little colourful logo on it. Now the tops do still come off, so you do have a customising option, or if you wanted to, you could paint that if you liked. But it does give us, ripping it off, give you a good show of the light bar down here. Now I can't take them apart anymore without risk of destroying them, because there is no simple tab or anything like that. So if you did want to paint all of it, then you do need to be fairly skilled. It's definitely not something I particularly want to do for a review. But the top comes off really quickly. You do just get your sticks down the back, but standard stuff. We've got a black PCB. I still laugh at the days where a black PCB was a really big thing. You do also get nice black everywhere else. The only weird thing that we can is the connector here. Corsair used to have connectors on the modules so that you could, there was basically an external connector on it. It wasn't for RGBs or anything, it was like for like temperature and all that sort of thing, and you could link all the DIMMs together. And on some Dominator Platinums, they looked like that. Whereas on here, it's missing. Dum dum dum! Anyways, when they're all gathered together like this, they are obviously very understated and very kind of nice and black, and they're going to fit in with any system. Okay, so once you get your memory installed, you do need to make sure that you get the very latest version of Corsair Link. The first version that supports the RGB is 4.6.0.86. So basically it's Corsair Link version 4.6. You need to make sure that you've got that, otherwise you won't get the section here, which is actually about all your latencies and the speeds. And also, if you do get this running and you think to yourself, oh my god, I've got 3000 megahertz memory here to test and it's only showing 1500 megahertz, but don't panic. That number, you just times it by 2 because of dual data rate. That's what DDR actually stands for. So don't worry about that. As long as that number at the very top times 2 is the speed of your memory, it's running fine. All I've done is enabled XMP for us to be able to test this today. So if you had a 3200 megahertz kit, it would read 1600. 1500 is 3000. 1400 is 2800. It's very simple. Anyway, so you've got that section, and then you have the actual LED section down here. So if you've not got the right version of Corsair Link, that might not work. You also need to make sure, especially on this system where we're running Z270 on this, you need to make sure that you've got the most up-to-date version of Intel Management Engine, or MEI, because it needs that to be able to talk to the memory. So that's something else that you do need to keep in mind. But anyway, once you get in, it will be flashing away like this, and it's going through a rainbow stage. But if you go here, you can click here, oh, it's shouting at me because I've still got that. You can click here and it will bring up a configure LED, and you can do grouped and ungrouped. This is one of the bits at the moment where they do need to kind of change it, because if you do them ungrouped, you can't unselect number 1. So if, you know, you've literally just got ungrouped, and then they can kind of do what they want, is for want of a better term. But with grouped, you can't untick number 1. There's no option for that. So for argument's sake, you might have unticked 1 and 2 and set some modes, and then you could have ticked 1 and 3, and then you could have done those, and you could have had the modules doing different things. Well, at the moment you can't, but this is literally the very, very first section of it. So I'm hoping that's going to come later on. To be honest with you, all they need is a drop down, so that on ungrouped, you can have a drop down and it have all of the individual LEDs showing up of the mod. You know, so we've got 4 modules here. You could have a drop down for LED 1, LED 2, LED 3, LED 4. They don't do that at the moment, but anyway, just bringing it up anyway. But with them grouped, I've got them all ticked. Now, what we can do is you can change the colours, and it will bring up this box so that you can change any one of the, how many of, you know, silly million colours. You've got an infinite amount of choice that you can go through. But for anyone that knows RGB, the hardest colour for RGB is white. Now when you've chosen your colour, you hit OK and then you hit apply, and it will go through a stage of changing where they will go off and then they will come back on again. As you will see, there we go, they're going off, and then they calibrate. It may do it one more time just for it to kind of go, oh, I've got it sorted. But anyway, we've turned white on, and one of the things I can say is I do have, as you've seen, the original white LED versions of these kits, where they've literally just got white LEDs on there, and the RGBs are incredible at the white, to the point where I've even asked Corsair, have they got dedicated whites? And they're like, no, we've just tuned the light bars. But they're very, very good. Sometimes you get a bit of yellow, sometimes you get a bit of blue, and these are quite clear and lovely, to be fair. So that's your static options. We've also got colour pulse, colour shift, and then rainbow. Colour pulse, you can set up to 7 colours that it will pulse between, and you can literally go through and you can select your 5 colours, you can select your 7 colours if you want. And then the colour pulse and the colour shift, the only difference between them is the colour pulse actually go off in between each colour change, and the colour, what do they call the other one? The colour shift, it doesn't, it fades between. Now this is just starting to calibrate itself, but you'll see that we're on red. Now the blue will come on. There we go. So that's your pulse. They go off in between every colour iteration that you've chosen. But if I was to change it to go on to shift, then they just fade between the colours, all nice and slow and lovely. Now I've set this up to kind of try and trip it up as well, because we've got some quite awkward colours, white into red, into blue, into green. Then we've got kind of a skyy sort of blue, then a yellow, and then a pink. And the sky blue, yellow and pink are very, very similar colours when it comes to it, and I can tell the difference between them on here quite easily. Obviously the camera is going to be spazzing out a little bit because of the screen is quite bright, and then we've got the lights in there. But the place to look for the colours is actually the reflection, which is why I've set it up that way, because it might trip itself over staring straight at the LEDs, but the reflection is actually a really clear place that it picks the colours up quite nicely. Anyway, the only other option that you've got with the LEDs is rainbow, and if we were to hit that, it's going to reset itself, as I've shown you before, and then it will go into the rainbow mode. But with the memory kits, don't forget, like I said, this is the first version of the software. It doesn't link in with any of the Corsair keyboards, mice, or anything like that yet. But I'm not even sure what I meant to say, but I know it is being worked on, and there are some quite exciting updates that I've heard about coming through. So really with them now, they are very pretty, but you would have to consider them as being a standalone product. But there will be many more additions coming through later on. Like I said, I'm not even sure what I meant to say about yet. So that is it. One thing I will say though, and I can't stress enough, is if you are an early adopter, please make sure that you check your motherboard first. They will work in a performance sense, but the software and the LED sense is the bit at the moment that's a bit hit and miss. But like I have said, I do know they're working incredibly hard because they have to actually check each motherboard individually to work out whether the software and everything is compatible, and if not, then they're making changes in the Link software. So it's an immense amount of work, but I know they are getting on with it as quick as they possibly can do. So yes, are you going to be one of those brave persons that pre-orders a bit like Ryzen when you didn't know necessarily what was coming and what wasn't coming, or are you going to sit tight and you're going to wait to see what happens later on? One of the good things I would say though is if you're already invested in the Corsair ecosystem and you are wondering about these, the one kind of hint I can give you is it is only going to get better. And if you did get these, I can pretty much say quite clearly that I reckon if you did get these, you probably are going to end up being quite happy later on, because there is other things coming that might put a smile on your face. And when I say Corsair ecosystem, that should be quite a big hint. There's something that they do at the moment that can't be controlled by software. Well, let's just say that it's coming. Anyway, right, I've said too much. I have to go. This is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.